Okay, we are back again, 4th layer, and we are committing with this being a blue across the board. So I think we're going to need a tiny bit more blue in there. I'll just stick it right in the middle this time. So let's move that bit in as well. Wet it up a treat. A bit more watery than that. A bit more fluid. Three well-loaded water brushes. That might be good, teamed with the wet brush application. So let's just make sure we got as much of that as possible. I'm sucking more up. Right, this should be the last one before we start to put some detail in. Let's see how this goes. Then I've got to bear in mind that there's going to be a few more layers after this. This isn't the last coat to the sky. I think we will go detail after this before we go back to washes. I'm going to, in this one, I'm saying this as I'm going because I haven't done it just yet. I'll be doing it in editing, so you'll all be aware before hearing this. I think I will pop some music in the background for this one to see how you all like that. The music teamed with the good audio. So I haven't done that combination yet. I always put the music in with the bad audio. Right, I think may as well suck up as much as we can. That is layer 4, I'm quite sure. So back to drying. I wash that palette out? Yes, I will in the meantime, because I don't need the purple anymore for anything. So I will be cleaning up these palettes. They've been well used. Clean water, clean brushes, clean everything. Yes, after this is dried, when I come back in a few hours, and you see it in just a moment, we're going to paint in. Oh yes, we're going to do the bush first, aren't we? So we'll do the bush first in a very, very dark green. And then wash over that with the blue again. Then do the leaves in a slightly lighter green and a bit of brown for the stick work. And then another wash of blue. And then this. We'll do a little test piece for this. So I think we'll do it that sort of off-white eggshell sort of colour that you get quite a few exterior of houses painted in. we'll do that and this grey top here, and then, well, after we've decided on a test bit, I'll wash over the whole thing, and then we should be on to whiting the cats and the moon and getting some detail in there. So once again, let's say this is one of those videos. We're back, we paint, see you in a little bit. So yeah, see you in a little bit again. Okay, and we're back. This is fully dry. So what we're going to do today, or now, is we're going to painting the bush next, or the bushes, be around about there. Maybe a little bit lower. And we may or may not put the leaves in as well at this point. We'll decide after we've done with the bush down the corner here. So for that I've got some Sap Green, which is rather appropriate and I think brand new. It is. Let's get that cracked open then. And it's broken off. There we go. That's really, really nice green. And we're going to add a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of ultramarine blue, because we want to darken that just a touch for the bush, because there's going to be a wash over the top, but we still don't want it to be so bright. We want it took down a notch or two. Otherwise it'll take even more night sky layers on top, and we don't want to get too carried away with that. So let's make a healthy, just the tiniest dot. So it's just going to bring it down a notch or two, maybe a bit more. We can be a bit more generous than I thought. That's getting there. Now, it's very tempting to always, when you haven't worked with paints or you're not too sure of how colour works, if you want to darken any of your secondaries or lighten them, to keep the pigment and not end up with a pastel or a murky version of that colour, you use the colours that make them to make them lighter or darker. So like with green, I'll use blue to make it darker and still keep vivid colour, and I'll use yellow to make it lighter and still keep that vivid colour. Whereas if I added white to that, it'd go pastel, and if I was to add black to it, it'd start to go really murky, and I don't want that. So that's just a handy little thing to know with paint, how to keep your colour nice and bright and vibrant without losing it. Because it's just something, you know, it's something you pick up from school. You don't learn in the very early days, unless you're interested in art and pursuing it. You don't tend to learn much more than add black, make it darker, add white, make it lighter. Ah, there we go. We are getting right there now. I don't think we'll add any more blue to that. We will just add a drop of water, because we're going to want it fairly fluid. We don't want it wash style. We just want the paint to go on smoothly. So we want to keep it as flat as possible. We don't want too many paint strokes or, you know, anything like that right now. this is still in the background. Let's bring that down a little bit more. I think one more. Yeah, that is beautiful. So let's just pop that over there for now. And what I've got here is a little tapered number 8. And this should be just right to get our bush line in. We're also going to wet this. We want the paint to run off it. So we're going to load the brush up. We know it's going to be around here somewhere. And down here somewhere. I'll bring it up there now. We're just giving it a little bit of a rougher edge. We don't want it wispy like grass, but we do want it to look like there's some little leaves, since this is shrub slash bush, poking out the top there, as there would be. I'm going to bring this out as smooth as we can. Might take a couple of layers, but that's okay. A couple of thin layers are better than one thick one. Because we also don't want, when we put the next wash over the top, we don't want it to all pool in a very thin wall that will be there if we have the paint too thick in one go. Let's bring all that back a bit. I think what we'll do is just make sure that we haven't got any, keeping it as smooth as possible, so no brush strokes if we can help it. Very minimal. And the same for being aware of that edge, making sure that we don't get left with a little wall. Right, so we're going to let that dry, then we'll add another layer to that. I think in the meantime we will put, because we're going to make them a bit paler, let's bring this upside down for a second. Down here we're going to put those leaves in. So we'll also need red for this actually, so we've got to make some twigs. So we'll come over here, we'll put a little bit of red in there. You won't need a whole heap. And a little bit of green. And we will get brown. We don't want to drop, and we did. Let's get that before it becomes an issue. At least it is right where a leaf is going to be. So that is not the end of the world, thankfully. Not that it would be anyway, like we said before, we can always get around things. So let's get a thinner brush. And we're going to mix the red and the green and get ourselves a very dark brown. That is a very dark brown. But that is what we want. Now we're just going to put in up here a couple of branches. Smattering of leaves, Yeah. I think that's all we need that for. Now we're definitely going to let that tongue-tied. We're definitely going to let that dry before we start painting on any leaves, otherwise they will get mucked up. Now it won't take too long, so let's flip it back round. So we'll let that dry about the time it takes to make a cup of tea. So have a cup of tea, make sure I've got everything that I need. Keep that brush wet. Pop that on there. Yeah, and when we come back, literally, like I say, cup of tea, toilet, anything. This won't take long at all. In fact, that might dry up there quicker than this because we didn't add any water to that. It was very good consistency all by itself. So after that we'll come back and then we'll either give the second coat to this or we'll start to put the leaves in, whichever one is dry first. So by the time we've done that we'll be able to flip back down here if that is the case and vice versa. So, cup of tea time. Okay, we are back and it's still a touch wet down here, but it's totally dry up there. So we're going to flip it round and start putting some leaves in. Now we'll bring this one back over and we'll just go straight sap. Just go straight sap. A tiny bit of edge taken off it. Since we're doing nothing else with this one up here, we'll bring the blue over there. We don't want it as dark as the bush, but just take a little edge off it. Tiny bit. tiny bit of water to that. Okay, let's put in some leafage. Water, not a whole heap, we just want to keep the paint fluid on that end there, we don't want it too far back either. We don't have to put a whole heap of detail into these leaves because again they're on the verge of silhouette. And there's going to be more than one overlaying, so you've got to try and envisage that in your mind when you're painting them on like this. So they're not all going to be uniform, they're not all going to look like... They are going to be the same sort of leaf, but because they're all sort of crisscrossing with one another. They're not going to look quite the same. But they will in the long run. These leaves shouldn't need, like the branch, they shouldn't need more than one coat. But make your own call on that as you're going. That's how thick your paint is when you're applying it. I think for me, I'm happy with that. So, flipping back round. Clean that brush up. Re-wet this one. We can probably clean that one completely now, actually. I don't think we need this one anymore. Not forget about my tea. It's quite cold today, so I'm going to try and keep my hands warm with a nice cup of tea. Plus it's just really tasty. Right. So we're going to want the bigger brush. We're going to come down here and we're going to give this another coat. Wet that ever so slightly. And then let's give this another coat. Again, trying to keep it nice and even and as fewer brush strokes left on the canvas as possible. That's a flick. Now, all the canvases I've done so far, like starting out this YouTube project, endeavour, potential career, if I keep pressing at it and get enough of you interested in me and what I have on offer, I will be doing works solely to just, well, to do them because they're fun, but I'll also put them up for sale. So if you do, I will announce when those canvases are being painted, so people don't look, if they do have interest in purchasing the ones that they're seeing. And equally, if you have seen one that you like so far, then you can always contact me and let me know, and we can work something out. So yes, that's another sort of plan for this in the future, is to do some work that will go up for sale. So that'll be interesting to see if there's any interest in that, because I can't keep everything I paint, otherwise I would become a terrible, terrible hoarder of my own making. Right, that is, I believe, all the green done. So we're going to let that dry. And then when it has dried, that's when we're going to do another blue wash, an ultramarine blue wash across the whole thing, apart from this square down here. That's still going to stay where it is for now. Then once that's dried, we'll have a look and assess where we're at. We'll probably get a little test piece put together, work out what colour this wall's going to be, and do a little sample piece, so we can work out what kind of wash needs to go over the top, to bring it back with everything else. And same for this. This little strip here, we don't need to do a test bit for, because that's going to be dark already, so it's not going to react too much to whatever colour wash we put over the top of it. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. So looking good so far. I do like the little simple branches and leaves up the corner there. They are very nice and effective. So yeah, pause again. Yes, drink the rest of my tea. Clean up these palettes because we don't need anything else that's on either of those apart from that little bit of blue. We might need this one. We'll have a see. You'll see how it is when we come back. So I'll have cleaned up a tiny bit. Lovely. Right, so back in a moment. Hopefully we can get bit more progression today, at least get the background done completely, including this. That's our goal. And then I expect time to take for these guys. The moon will be nice and easy, so we'll be able to do that before the cats. Then we can totally focus in and everything will be nice and dry, so wherever we lean we're not going to smudge or take paint away where we painted it. So yeah, pause again. Okay, we are back and we are fully dry everywhere. So we're going to whip up an ultramarine blue wash and go over all of the background, not here. We might do this a couple of times, we'll see how the first one looks. Make a fair bit. So let's wet it up a treat. I've got some nice clean water in the meantime. Cling filmed the other palette up. So if we can keep that to the point we get to the cats, that will be very handy, because we're going to need brown tones. I'm going to make this fairly runny again, like we did when we were first applying it. So quite a bit more water. Looking quite good, that's quite runny. Let's pop you over there for a second. Let's get our big 1.5. And we're going to be very brave and just go over everything. And also using a wet brush. Initial impressions is we're going to need more than one. So we want to bring those back quite a bit. And same for the bush down the corner. Really loading that brush up when we go in, since we're trying to do one long smooth stroke. We don't want it to run dry. It gets towards the end, which you can see every now and again. This looks like it's going to be just the right amount for this layer. this is definitely going to take more than one to get it to where we want it. That there is after layer 1, and it is looking good. I think we stopped at the right point with the background before adding some of the, you know, moving forward features. Just do there for a second. Scooch you guys over and clean that up. So again, we're going to let that dry, and as it stands, we're going to do at least one more layer, maybe 2, before we move on to this bit. And however we wash this is where we're going to have to be very, well, we're going to do a lot of tests, a lot of test strips. We're going to work out what wash is going to work for both sides, because that, to keep it running even, we're going to have it go right across everything. So, and it might be as simple as using the blue or making the blue a sort of greyish blue. But we'll see when we get to that point. So everything's been dulled a tiny bit. And it's starting to look like the sky we want it to, not just blue, purple, blue. It's all starting to blend where it needs to. And with the blue wash going over everything, it's also making that purple more incorporate of the blue. So, back to the drying stage again. So that's where some of these bits will take time doing. They don't actually take too long applying paint to canvas. It's just waiting for it to dry in between things. Like I say, with the Cosmic Cat, that definitely took a few days of getting the background together because it was do a bit dry. So yes, we're going to let that dry again. Definitely one more, we'll wash that up as well, definitely one more wash of Ultramarine Blue before we consider anything else. So this needs to come back a bit, and that needs to come back a little bit. And yeah, then we'll take it from there. We'll look at, on the next stage as well, finding somewhere nice and flat for this to stay so we can do some little test strips. On a little scrap of paper, get a colour put together that we want this building to be, and do a couple of tests. Paint up some cubes, some oblongs. We're flat 2D, not 3D. Paint out some oblongs, do some tests as to what wash is going to work best, and try and bear in mind that it's going to go over everything, so it's going to impact this, but it's also going to impact this. Unless we can get away with taking it across and down here. That's a possibility as well, because this doesn't matter if this gets affected too much and brought back along with that. We just want to try and keep the sky where it's at. So yeah, more painting when that's dry, and getting some test bits put together. So off I pop again. While it dries, I'll see you in a second. I will see my painting in about a couple hours. So yeah, off we pop again. Okay, we're back again, fully dry. So one more blue wash, and then we will hopefully put this somewhere flat in the kitchen. Just a tiny bit more than that. And we'll make up some, well, we'll paint up some little test squares, little test oblongs for sorting out that wash that's going to go over the building as well as the sky, or maybe just the bushes, we'll see. So let's just wet this up a treat first. Make it nice and watery. Nice and fluid. Making sure we're breaking down those chunks as we're going, those little pigment specks. Maybe a couple more. More than a couple. Yeah, that's really good. Get a nice wet brush again. Let's go over the whole thing again. Slightly wetter brush. That's better. Okay. Right. Let's find somewhere in the kitchen to put this. And yeah, get a little sample piece. I got distracted temporarily because my girl was moving and the light creeping through the back door. For the briefest of seconds I thought I'd got the kitchen light on, which makes those lines appear up and down here. We didn't, it was just my girl walking past the sunlight. So yes, distractions aside, we're going to move that somewhere flat to let it dry, get some test pieces out, and make up some sort of eggshell colour. Do some little oblongs on the test bit, let them dry, and then work out what sort of wash we're going to do. It might be a case that it's still the blue one. Might not. That's where the test is going to be. So yes, let's put this somewhere.